Bienvenue, Ani, welcome. Last time we took a step toward expanding the community our characters will live in by creating someone outside of the main character's family. The result was Zinnia, a fairy with plant powers. I had a vague thought that maybe Zinnia fills the quest giver role in whatever adventure Button and company are about to head out on, and that Granddaughter is friends with her. With this next sprinkler head, I could have created a character that, like Zinnia, was not immediately attached to any of the current characters, but I decided instead to give Zinnia a family member or two. The reason for this was twofold. It made sense to give her more connections as a character with which the others are close, and, aesthetically, it made sense for the next sprinkler head to also be a plant fairy. Because this is another sprinkler where I knew exactly what direction I was going to go with it as soon as I saw it come up out of the ground. Long bangs covering half the face is a common shorthand for angsty teen, and I went in that direction. This is a speed draw, and the lines will flicker. Before I even started, I knew that this was going to be Zinnia's teenage son, and I wanted to find a balance between angsty teen style and what one might expect a forest fairy to wear. I started by sketching what the moss might look like as hair, and then tried a baggy hoodie look. Then, to lean in a more fantasy direction, I turned that baggy hoodie into more of a poncho. I also had headphones as part of the design, and kind of wish I'd included those in the final art, but unfortunately I forgot to line them in the line art stage. This happens sometimes, where you go back to your initial character sketches and realize there's an idea there that you really like and just didn't end up including for one reason or another. You can either figure out a way to add it back in, or decide that, although it would have been nice, you still like the way the art looks without it. With characters that you plan to put into different outfits, of course, you can also make a note to yourself to include it in one of the other outfit designs. Still searching for that balance between recognizable teen style and fantasy elements, I briefly tried a typical forest fairy vest tunic, but immediately fell in love with the beanie design with the semicircle eyes. I added asymmetry and ragged edges to the poncho, sleeves that nearly go over the hands to the shirt, and sketched in the idea of decorative belts and rips to the pants. Still in the brainstorm phase, I tried out one more outfit design. This was closer to some goth styles I've seen, though, and so wasn't really in the direction I wanted to go. Having settled on the beanie look, I worked on a larger sketch so that I could figure out the details: boot style, belt and rip placement, pose, and poncho pattern. I liked it so much I barely changed anything in my final sketch before adding line art. I decided to make the line for the under eye a bit thicker to give the impression of eyeliner, and then went to work on how to take moss that looks like hair and turn it into hair that looks like moss. Spoiler, I changed this later and just make it moss. I liked the idea of hair that looked vaguely like moss, but it ended up looking more like a bunch of sticks. Not entirely satisfied, I let it sit and worked on the rest of the line art, which, apart from some minor posing decisions with the boots, was fairly straightforward. One of the benefits of a decent sketch and a strong concept. I had decided that I wanted the poncho to be patchwork, and started by making the pieces quite small, but stopped when I once again reminded myself that if I was going to be drawing this character more than once, I wouldn't want to have to sit there drawing tiny rectangles longer than necessary. So I started again with larger pieces that still get the point across. Finally, I went back to the hair, bringing my sprinkler head outline closer so that I could zoom in and better replicate the shape of the strands of moss. Now, being a teen is hard work, figuring out who you've been, who you want to be, and dealing with countless life-altering changes. So, while the main pose seems tired, maybe even a bit irritated, I wanted to once again use the extra poses to show that this character is more than one thing. I decided to pick a small comfort item that brings this character happiness, and ended up choosing a warm cup of tea. For the last pose, I decided that maybe he has a part-time or summer job running errands or as a courier, so I drew a flying pose and added a messenger bag to his outfit. I wanted this pose to be both stationary and in motion. It is clear from his bag and poncho that he is moving, but his body is just dangling. He is not at all invested in this activity or eager to get wherever he's going, and would probably rather just be slumped on the couch. For the color palette, I again started by pulling colors from the original picture, and then I tried to choose colors that matched in value to create a flat palette with little contrast. Even the accent colors, if you can call them that, namely the pink and yellow green patches on the poncho, don't stand out from the others. This is a character who could easily blend into the moss for which he is named. And with the addition of Moss to our cast, there's only one more character left to meet before we take a break from character creation to work on some world building and see what kind of story these characters are waiting to tell. I hope I'll see you there!